Imagine a place where the boundaries of age, industry, background, and culture melt away, replaced by a shared desire to explore the depths of our collective experiences. Here, on the open, shaded porch, amidst an atmosphere of serenity and tranquility, leaders from all walks of life gather to share their stories, the stories that shape their very beings and doings. This is the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Laila Maroof.
I'm delighted to welcome Rama Chakaki to the podcast. Rama is a Syrian American impact tech entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist. She's a partner in Transform VC, a Silicon Valley firm enabling 1,000 tech founders to impact 1 billion and make 1 billion by investing in deep tech with climate and social impact. She runs an EdTech nonprofit that supports youth in the Middle East and beyond with education, mentorship, and funding. Rama is a role model for women entrepreneurs and leaders around the world. Rama, how are you doing today this morning?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. All over the place. That's how it goes with technology, right, Rama?
That's true, yeah.
So I was looking at your CV. Wow, what a background, from the bachelor, master's in computer engineering, to working in media, telecom, tech, entrepreneur, investor, partner. What an impressive journey. What and who inspired you all through this way? Tell us more about this, please. I'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Laila. I appreciate it. I mean, first of all, there are people who are generalists and those who are specialists, and I fall in the generalist category, so it looks like a lot, but I don't feel it. I will say that I think I have a non-traditional approach to career development, and that's why you see a little bit of everything. Inspiration, I mean, I've definitely been inspired by a lot of amazing people throughout my career. I've been inspired by those who started new territories in social impact. So the founder of Grameen Bank, Mr. Yunus, was a great inspiration. The founders of Kiva.org were really inspiring to me. And then on the business front, I mean, who isn't inspired by Steve Jobs and his impeccable eye for design? And then, more closely, people from within our communities, being originally from the Middle East, I just reflect on the readings that I've had of people that don't tend to be in the spotlight, but have definitely had an impact, both older generation and even younger generation, those who led the entrepreneurship movement and others. So that's a kind of a big deck of many people, but I think like a lot of people my age, it starts to become kind of a connect the dots as opposed to here's just the one person.
Yes, I feel you. I really, really feel you. I think that's where I am now, kind of in life, this whole, I call it rewiring. From time to time, I feel it's great, it's really needed, and it's just time to change track for many, many reasons. I know now you're a partner in Transform VC, which is a Silicon Valley firm enabling 1,000 tech founders to impact 1 billion and make 1 billion. That's a really, really amazing mission. But I always wondered about missions like this, that can we really make billion, which means making money while also making good? Is it easy? Is it difficult? And how do you do it?
Well, it's definitely getting easier than when I started this journey in 2005 with impact. I mean, prior to 2005, I was in tech and focused primarily on, like a lot of tech companies, how do you make money? But then in 2005, I switched to saying, all right, well, I think there needs to be something beyond us just making money. And looking around and seeing whether it was the refugees or the climate, I started down this path of impact. And the proof is in the pudding, as they say. And in our portfolio company, we have at least one company that has reached 1 billion and can claim that they've impacted 1 billion or will be impacting 1 billion and more. And so with having now 4 portfolio companies that are valuated over $1 billion, we're looking at how do we replicate that and scale it to thousands. And so the quick answer is yes, you can. It takes a very deliberate approach, and it takes investors who believe in impact as well as making money. And it takes a community around you who has that same drive to make impact as well as make money. And we're seeing it happen. It's in the making.
Wow. But is it difficult? You're talking about investors who can really feel that and believe in that, believe in impact. I still see many organizations and businesses that kind of put ego over impact. They put money over impact. I don't know if that's my perspective, or is it really what we see out there? What do you think?
It is absolutely challenging. It's not easy. And in 2005, when I started a social impact tech incubator in Dubai, I was really the odd one out. Most investors would say, just do charity. Like you want to help people, go out and do charity. They couldn't see how you could mix impact with business. We've come a long way since 2005. Today, the number one invested in category in venture capital is AI, followed closely by climate companies, climate tech. And so, huge difference between 2005 and now. You have many investors who are very conscious about the world we live in and how the disasters they see on TV, somebody has to own up and assist in supporting those impacted, but also prevent some of these issues from happening. And then a trickle-down effect is the social impact. So climate is leading, but then social, 100 million refugees and growing. Who's solving for that? And these are not just conflict refugees, they are climate refugees. And so, there are far more conscientious investors who want to put their dollars where it matters.
Yes. I think you heard Apple announced about their new Apple Watch lineup. First ever, they have a carbon neutral product with their 2030 vision. I think there's a lot of companies right now, as you said, that they kind of put climate crisis as number one. And I think sometimes that is maybe because we can feel the effect. It's more tangible around us. You can see disasters around us. You can feel it. The impact is big out there. But I feel sometimes what is the underlying layer is a crisis in leadership. And the underlying layer also is crisis in knowledge maturity of leaders. What do you think of that?
I agree with you 100%. I think early on, maybe in management, there were a few management theories anchored in a few leading books. Those books really inspired a lot of people who were just thinking, single bottom line, the corporation is here to make money. That's all we care about. And then over time, it proved that is creating a leadership approach that's too unilateral, unifocused, where as humans, we cannot disengage from the environments that we live in. Whether the immediate environments or the extended ones. So I think more and more people started wondering, how do you create a much broader vision for companies where they're not just caring about money irrespective of what's happening out there in their immediate and far-reaching environment. And the bigger the company becomes, the more important this is, because Apple is operating in China and it operates everywhere else in the world. And so you can't ignore the ecosystem around you and what you have to do for it. And leaders are challenged because they may also have grown up in management schools that still abide by that old theory of go out and make money.
True. But also, if we look at the education system in general, I just feel they're like dinosaurs, very slow to change, very slow to change. You hear a lot of reforming happening here and there, but maybe what we need is a serious transformation of education, because the why of education has changed tremendously. from just preparing students with certain skill sets for the first jobs to we need creativity here. We need priceless relationships. We need broader vision. We need smarter decision making. And what you said is we have a lot of complex issues out there. So, do we have an aligned vision that really brings out the best in our abilities as human to solve these issues? And I just feel, I don't know, but I just feel the education system really needs to transform. And I don't know about your perspective in that. Do you see any transformation happening around you?
Yes, I agree with you. It needs to transform. And I think, one area that I had been a fan of since 2007 until now is place-based education. I feel that traditional education is very disconnecting from the real environments. And we all go into classrooms, we learn in a very insular mode, and very few professors or educational institutions offer that ability to learn in the places that you're going to be serving or supporting. And that disconnection from the environment needs to change. And I think that this is beginning to happen, like it or not, as a result of COVID, but also as a result of some of the globalization, people wanting to go to the different places that they hear about in the news. And then technology, of course, is creating a huge shift in the way people learn. So yes, I think we do need to change it, and maybe a more deliberate approach would be better than, well, we're just reacting to COVID and reacting to globalization and reacting to technology.
That's very true. Very true. So what do you look for when you look for talent? What competencies do you look for in talent?
So definitely a core skill set of, I know the field that I'm getting into, or at least I'm curious enough about it to self-learn and self-teach. The second is someone who is in addition to curiosity, enjoys a learning journey. I don't just stop because I got an MBA. The beginning point is that MBA. Third is with the environment and the social impact, someone who's attached to community and spends a lot of time outdoors or reflecting about the environment and environmental challenges we're all facing, and lives it themselves. So not in the abstract, I want to go help some far-reaching community or a remote community in the islands in the Philippines, and having never been to the Philippines or having never really interacted with folks in that community, but really that touch of, I know what I'm talking about, hands-on, I've been in it.
That sounds great, but I was really laughing the other day when I saw on Instagram a sketch where there's I don't know, hundreds of people walking with their eyes glued to their mobile, while 3-4 robots were sitting and learning. And it was a funny, of course, metaphor of what's going on in the world right now. There's so much distraction around us all the time. It's just taking our attention away of what is really important. And now we're kind of switching roles with robots, with machines, with AI. And you being in the tech world, what do you say about that, Rama? What's going on?
Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a real challenge when we become at the service of technology, or we're actually the product to teach AI, as opposed to being receiving the utility of AI. And while you're right, AI requires training, we need to be mindful of our own growth path and our own learning path, and making sure that we don't lose that community sense and the thinking and feeling. So technology and those behind it is still devoid of emotion, right? And those behind it aren't devoid of emotion, but as they're building, they're not necessarily thinking of that holistic approach. Whereas I think leaders of businesses do need to come to the table with all of themselves, and as they build a company, also build it that way, because it's not enough just to strengthen technology from a technical perspective. The emotion and the impact of technology and the relationships that you build in your business and around your business are critical to the success, the healthy success of a business.
Right. I think I wrote about that in Knowledge Mindfulness. Is I feel that maybe the focus kind of needs to rotate towards our self-guidelines coming from within than the imposed external guidelines or policies that we can put in organizations for people, how to use AI, what sensitive information not to put there, what to take, how to use all that with a very deliberate, conscious awareness of the pros and cons of such technologies, because the impact is huge. I mean, a small mistake there can cost organizations so much, right?
Absolutely. So bringing your whole self, I think, is it's the ultimate best thing to do from my perspective, best thing a founder can do for themselves and for the business they're building. It's a rather difficult conversation to have with many founders because you're asking them for a huge leap from what they've learned. And few have that enlightened, holistic approach. So we start by saying, you have to be curious. You have to spend time outdoors and in community, because those connections help develop that mindful approach. And then starts the harder conversation is, okay, we invest in predominantly AI companies. What is your social impact? And the first response we often get is, there isn't. I haven't made money yet. Once I make money, I'll start thinking about impact. And so then we push back and say, all right, well, think about your day-to-day life. Think about who in your community needs education, or who in your community, and how can you begin serving them from day one? And there's a little bit of a back and forth between us and the founder, because this mindset that I have to first make money, then have impact is very prevalent in education. And then it transfers over to the founder's journey. And bringing them back to this mindful approach, it almost feels initially unnatural for them until they relax and until they kind of ease into it. But it's as if when they walk into the business world, they put aside their whole self and bring just a part of them. And that's what they feel comfortable doing. And we have to then bring them into this discomfort zone of, no. We want to know what you feel. We want to know who you connect with. Think about that and bring that here. And then let's see how we can have an impact conversation that's meaningful to your business. And it takes iterations, and it takes a lot of, here's an example, here's another example, until they settle in.
And what's the toughest situation you were facing with people who you could not change that perspective in them, or their way of thinking and feeling about this?
So the hardest is the serial entrepreneurs who've been successful. I've already had a $5 billion exit. What are you talking about? This isn't something that anybody had talked to them. And, maybe you haven't had a $5 billion exit, so you don't understand what it takes to get there. I think this is the most challenging thing. And I've always gravitated towards younger people who you can more easily convert. But you want examples from really wildly successful people to also lead the way.
Did you try to put those two generations together? The wisdom of the older with kind of the younger, hungry to learn more?
Well, I have, and a lot of other people are doing a much better job. And yeah, I love books like yours because it invites those who are ready to read and understand and have already built businesses to reflect on how they can have a more holistic approach. So, the authority of this is a great book, and so they'll learn through it. But it's the conversion is harder than the
yes,
here it is, or a personal experience in their life that caused them to shift.
Very true. And in my book, I wrote about how success can sometimes lead to complacency, where people resist change because they feel they've achieved enough. Success should be seen as part of a broader journey, and in education, we need to address this mindset. Even though change takes time, rather than management, it's about involving and nudging people with more flexible processes. Okay, Rama, hang on there for a moment. We have to stop here. But coming up in the second part of my talk with Rama Chakaki, the inspiring VC, angel investor, and tech founder, Rama shares her passion for lifting up more women to leadership positions.
I think having a lot more women in leadership positions in the business world without compromising their roles as mothers and nurturers is important. And that takes a transformation of the industry as well, because this industry, it's an either or. You can't be both.
You have been listening to the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Laila Maroof. If you want to join the movement of knowledge mindfulness and shape the world of tomorrow, go to drlailamaroof.com. The Knowledge Mindfulness Porch is a production of Forbes Books.